Buy, sell, or hold. We discuss what the Cubs could or should do coming up right now.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Please subscribe. Please support the show. I'm just so excited about today's program. There's a lot of excitement around the Cubs. Please support the show and be a part of the community by following on your preferred audio platform. And you can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Always very engaging over there. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's Tuesday episode is presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed with Game Time. Cubs are 48-51, 6.5 games back of first place in the NL Central, 6 games back of the first wild card spot, 5 games back of the third wild card spot. Northsiders have 6 games this week, 2 with the White Sox and 4 with the Cardinals, and those 6 games will help to determine whether or not the Cubs buy, sell, or hold. But if this week goes well, the Cubs have plenty of depth to be a buyer, even in the uncertainty of the trade market this year. But we're going to talk about it all. Sam, good to be with you and good to be talking about the Cubs possibly being in this position.
Yeah, this should be apologize for my voice being a little hoarse. Not quite sure what the problem is. This should
probably
be
the air quality.
This should be a very fun week. And it's July 25th when you listen to this. And the Cubs are still playing relevant baseball, which is really, really fun and exciting.
Yep.
And it did look that way about 5 days ago, 6 days ago. Things could turn on a dime, but you also have to remember they could turn the other way on a dime. Every single game is very important. And, a 4-2 stretch here coming up versus a 2-4 stretch could be the difference between Cody Bellinger being a Chicago Cub on August 2nd or not.
Right.
And people out there that say, oh, well, you don't determine that over 6 games. Yeah, that's what they're telling you. Trust me. If they go 4-2 and they're a game under 500, I'd be very surprised if they moved a big piece.
And if that's the case, I'm caught up in my diehard fan feelings, but I'm not going to apologize for it. But if that's the case, then I am starting to look at rentals as trade targets for the Cubs, because I think that's the most realistic, because the cost will be lower than a player who is cost control. And if the Cubs are in the fight after this week, and regardless if they are or not, the needs have been clear in my mind. First or third baseman who could rotate at DH, preferably left-handed, but maybe not, plus a left-handed relief pitcher. And
or any relief pitcher.
They have the people in the minor leagues, the resources to make a trade finally if they want to.
I think if they buy somebody, though, it's going to be a cost-controlled guy, not a rental, because they're not good enough for a rental to really bring back value, right? Like at 5, 6, 7 games back, getting a rental and then losing him in the offseason, what does that really do? But I do think they have a piece, I think, like Nelson Velasquez or one of those types of guys. You can call up Colorado. I know they made trades, Washington, Kansas City, all these different teams. And, get a guy that's on a 2-year deal that has an ERA below 4 out of the bullpen. That's just an upgrade from what you're running out there, because I don't think you can make a serious run with Merriweather, Leiter Jr., who also, by the way, is getting trade interest from other teams, and Alzolay. You need another guy. And Merriweather is trending in a poor direction. Fulmer's been up and down all year. Boxberger we haven't heard from since like the mid-'80s.
Yeah, he's not coming back, it seems.
No, I don't even know what's wrong with him.
He's playing catch.
Yeah, he's been playing catch for like 6 months.
Right.
You need another guy, and you're going to need that guy next year when you're even better anyway.
Okay.
So I think I would be on board. Now, relievers are so unpredictable and have such heavy variance. It's dangerous to trade for a controlled one because you could be good this year and terrible next year. But I'm not advocating to trade for some guy in a huge contract. Just some guy. I'll come up with somebody. Let's owed a few $1 million next season that you could have on your team.
Yeah.
That you could put in a 1-run game in the 7th and not cover your eyes, basically.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned the two names already that I would be looking at in terms of teams. Cubs and the Rockies. And I have
the Rockies made trades today, didn't they?
The Nationals and Rockies, excuse me. Yes, and the Rockies did make a deal. They sent Pierce Johnson to the Braves for a couple of prospects. And so
I thought the Cubs might go after him.
If you're wondering if the market for relief pitching is out there, it certainly has been established in a sense on Monday with the Rockies dealing. And now the Rockies have set their own precedent to be willing to deal from their bullpen. And they still have a couple of lefties that are rentals, though. Brad Hand and Brent Suter, both are having nice years. Suter a little bit better than Hand. And the Nationals, though, have a right-handed reliever who against lefties has been dominant, and that's right-handed reliever Kyle Finnegan, who you'd be cost-controlled for a few seasons.
That'd be nice, yeah.
But I would like to get greedy in those scenarios, and I'd like to ask about Heimer Candelario, because I'll be damned if I just sketched out a lineup before this show, and it was like incredible just with Candelario batting third and playing third.
Yeah.
I mean, you go Talkman, Horner, Candelario, Bellinger, Swanson, Happ, Suzuki, Gomes, Morel. That sounds pretty good. And I didn't have time to make that graphic, man. But I mean, geez, there is targets. I know, again, with the Rockies, CJ Cron's name was brought up by a few different outlets today in the Cubs sphere. And do you want Trey Mancini and Nick Madrigal and Patrick Wisdom getting all these plate appearances still? Or do you think that if you are in the mix, maybe you would benefit from a Candelario or a Cron on the position side? And I also think one of Madrigal or Wisdom, who are both under team control through 2026, in a trade, especially for a rental, but regardless, could possibly seal these types of deals because then the Rockies or Nationals would get a player right away to play every day. Nelson Velasquez would fit that bill too. But yeah, there's four names: Candelario, Finnegan, Nationals, and Cron and Suter with the Rockies. I just want the Cubs to get better. Especially if they go 4-2 or 5-1 this week, I'd like to see Jed make a deal next week.
Yeah, for me, the goal is if you're going to get better with this team, make sure you're also trying to get better for 24. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to talk about, right? I mean, these games, and we could segue into the Cubs Sox stuff, are huge. And I would say that if you're listening to this show and you're not a diehard fan, which is probably about less than 10% of our viewership, and you pick and choose when to watch these next 6 baseball games.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Because they're going to determine August and September. And oh, by the way, the next 6 baseball games, who do you play? You play the Chicago White Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals. Matt, before we get into the break, can I get some hot tea, please?
Yeah, wow. Can I Sam, I got no plans today. I would love to bring you something. I mean,
well, I'm not sick.
A little bit far from me, but
I'm not sick at all. I don't know what this is.
You feel good. It's just in your throat.
Yeah, I was just yelling a lot yesterday, I guess.
Oh, at the Cubs?
Yeah, well, I was at Nick's game, then I was at the Cubs, and then I was playing pickleball with my mom, and I kind of screamed a couple times.
Okay, great.
So I don't know. Yeah, no, I couldn't feel any better actually.
All right, so Cubs trades possibly with the Nationals, maybe the Rockies. As return pieces, you have Velasquez, maybe somebody like a Killian, Sam.
Oh.
Just different pieces that could possibly depth piece. And I actually cooked up. Oh, hey, come on.
Well, no, it's just last time we saw him, he was just
I
throwing the ball to the
did. So
backstop.
Cam from the Locked On Podcast Network social media and graphics team did send me did make a proposal graphic today. So just as we've been talking, I did plug in some names. I'm sorry I had to do it.
Yeah.
So here's a graphic right here, dude. I got Candelario and Finnegan to the Cubs, Nelson Velasquez, and how about Jeremiah Estrada? The man that once threw 47 fastballs in a row.
Why would the Nationals do that?
To the National?
They're not. They're not even getting one good player.
I shouldn't have shown that.
Yeah.
All right, so
You'd have to do like
Nelson Velasquez is pretty solid.
For Candelario and Finnegan, you'd have to include probably like Alcantara,
a top prospect.
Yeah.
Alcantara.
Yeah, they really value Can. I'll tell you this.
Oh, geez.
Not Estrada.
They're going to lose 100 games.
No, but they're not going to make a deal like that for Estrada.
So can I edit that out or?
Yeah, you might want to edit that out.
Okay.
I mean, now maybe keep it on for the comedy part of it.
Right.
But it's probably an edit out.
All right, coming up next. I'm not going to edit that. Coming up next.
I mean, that's two guys that aren't even, not any good. So.
I don't know why I did that.
That's all right, man. It happens.
All right, just focus. Nationals and Rockies as Cubs trade partners. Okay, folks?
Yeah.
I also cooked up a CJ Crone proposal.
How about the Cubs and Sox?
I think I'm done with that, aren't you?
Yeah, no, the Sox just have a lot of good relievers.
Hey, who do the Sox have?
A lot like a Joe Kelly or
and like Graveman and stuff.
Yeah, like one of those guys.
All right, let's preview.
They have
Cubs
a better bullpen than the Cubs.
Cubs and the Pale Hose next. Today's episode is presented by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Great time of the year to do that, whether it's a stand-up show, a concert outside, a baseball game, and otherwise, you could certainly do that through Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. The Cubs play the White Sox at 7:10 p.m. Central Tuesday, and you can listen to every pitch with the Cubs hometown broadcast on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Cubs. Or tune into channel 844 and catch the Cubs all season long on SiriusXM. Well, the day has arrived where the crosstown rivalry is renewed. It's going to be Hendricks and Kopech on Tuesday and Stroman and Lynn on Wednesday. Those are both 7:10 starts. White Sox started this campaign 7-21, currently 41-60, 3-6 in the second half. They have a trio of hitters who have heated up recently: Anderson, Benintendi, and Jimenez. But Luis Robert and Jake Berger, their main power threats, have really scuffled in the second half. And listen to these Michael Kopech walk totals in his last 5 outings.
I think he's leading the league.
4, 4, 7, 3, and 6. And Lance Lynn in his last 5 outings, 30 innings, 18 runs on 29 hits, including 10 home runs. Cubs, White Sox.
Would you believe it if I told you the Chicago Cubs have opened Tuesday night as underdogs?
Yeah, I wouldn't believe it. I would think they would be a slight favorite.
Yeah, they're underdogs. The thing with this series, the short 2-game series, Kopech and Lynn are very streaky. I wouldn't be surprised if they threw 6 shutout innings and struck out double digits. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make it through 4 innings.
Right.
The good news is, especially with Kopech, is as the Cubs see a lot of pitches. And so with his walk total and the amount of pitches the Cubs see, that should be a pretty good matchup. The White Sox, though, do hit Hendricks in the past, especially Robert. I think TA's gotten to him. So, you know what I always say about Kyle. If Kyle could keep the ball in the park, the Cubs will be fine. And I think Stroman will dominate this team. It's a good matchup for him. The only difference with Stroman and Hendricks is Stroman keeps the ball in the park better.
Yeah, Kopech and Lynn have had flashes of brilliance this year.
I think Lynn struck out 17.
He did. He struck out 16 in his
16.
6th to last start. I gave you this last 5. That 6th one, he gave 16 strikeouts, which is really impressive. Kopech has struggled more so. His last start was better, but he still walked 4. So I like these matchups. I figured Wednesday would be heavy favorite and Tuesday would be slight favorite.
Yeah.
And a 2-game series here. Would like to see them get in, get out, go to St. Louis at 50 and 51 would be just amazing. But we got to go inning by inning.
Inning by inning, pitch
game
by pitch.
Game. Yeah. Oh, pitch by pitch even. Wow.
Yeah. Well, and the Cubs are playing really well right now and they're hitting really well. And, just thinking about that lineup with Talkman and Horner and Happ and Bellinger, I think they're going to do all right against Kopech, and hopefully they're ready to go. The Sox, right? Sox fans care about this rivalry way more than Cubs fans, right? They're the little brother. They're going to be up for this game and this series because what else are they up for? They're one of the most disappointing teams, not only in baseball, but really in the last 10 years. They're going to be ready to go. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. The Cubs are still alive, and they got to continue playing the way they're playing.
Absolutely. So very excited. And the plan is for us to go live after each of those games. Cubs, White Sox on Tuesday and Wednesday, shortly after each of those ball games, probably about 20 minutes after the final out of each of those games. Coming up next, Keith Law, formerly of ESPN and now with The Athletic, did release new prospect rankings over the weekend, and the Cubs are heavily featured. We're going to close out with that next. We're back here on Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen.
Cubs are playing meaningful baseball, dude.
Isn't it exciting?
It's really exciting.
Yeah, I was cooking up, these bad trades earlier and, proposed lineups. And
hey, you're human.
I just think that I was also doing a deep dive on the 2021 Atlanta Braves. Who threw 100 games, were 49 and 51, which the Cubs could be after Tuesday night's victory. So I really I've had some time recently open, and I've been doing some deep dives, and I've been definitely a subject of my Cubs heart.
Listen, let me tell you something. You're a human being. We're human beings. 3 weeks ago, I was talking about how lucky Bellinger's been. Since then, he's been Tony Gwynn and Barry Bonds put together. We're going to make mistakes, man. I just wish I had like a little tea or something.
Okay, well, go to Starbucks.
Yeah, so.
Oh, we can't name companies on here. Oh,
no, don't do that, dude.
So, Keith Law released his new prospect rankings. He does a even number, but it's an odd number for prospect rankings. He does a top 60. There's a strong representation from the Cubs right now in that top 60, Sam. Kevin Alcantara, 14. Pete Crow Armstrong, 18. Cade Horton, 53. And here's the surprise in the top 60 before even playing a pro game. Matt Shaw, 55th. James Triantos was also an honorable mention. So good Cubs contingent there. PCA actually a little bit lower where he's been some other publications, namely MLB Pipeline. But it's fun to see this main core, and it's really been the same 4 or 5 names now since the winter. And now you even have Matt Shaw, who's viewed highly around the game.
Yeah, and PCA has been hitting much better here lately. When the trade deadline stuff calms down, we'll probably do an episode on that because, I think I'm ready for the next step for him.
To go to AAA.
Yeah, whether he's ready or not, I think I'm ready. And I think Cub fans want to see that because I think at some point next season, we really need to see him in center field because Cub fans are getting impatient. They want to see the fruits of all this labor and all these trades. And in reality, the only guy we've really seen at the big league levels, what was Nesky? So who's, by the way, been pitching much better since he's been sent down. So that's
he might start this week.
Encouraging. I actually thought he might start against the Sox because they have so many righties. I thought there was a chance, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah, if you trade some of that depth at AAA, then there's an easier path for PCA just to play every day there.
Exactly.
So it would all line up for the Chicago Cubs.
The Cubs have a unanimous top 10 system. There's no question about that.
Right.
The next step for them, if they do make moves at this deadline, is to add another PCA level guy, another blue chipper, another guy that you could build your farm system around, another guy that has a very high floor and an extremely high ceiling. That no matter what, is going to be a good big league player. That's probably the other guy they're missing. And I think, hopefully Cade Horton works his way up because he's outside of PCA. He's become my target.
Shout out to the everydayers who are with us all 5 episodes throughout the week. And you can become an everydayer by checking us out each and every weekday. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for Locked On Cubs on YouTube as we make the push to 5,000 subs. We're now, we crossed the 4,400 threshold on
Before
Monday.
Before the season, get that done.
Definitely. And smash the like button for the algorithm, as when people search Cubs trade deadline and things like that, we'll be one of the first to come up if we get more likes and comments. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast on the audio side. Audio very important to us as well. And we're streaming on SiriusXM. Cubs White Sox is here. Cubs are still in the mix. They're still fighting. Very excited for these ball games this week. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.